You don't live there anymore?
No, building out the Shady Acres over by grab a cigarette. Fire marshal name.
Okay, let me go shut that window there.
Like Bruce Buffer.
Okay, what one?
Let's have one.
Not tonight.
Audio not working. Just check one. Okay.
It's reading this one. You reading this
New
Full house. I'm gonna get out of here.
I can't read that.
220.
I was thinking 1:30.
I can't. I have class.
Over half hour, right?
Contest.
You ready?
Ready?
Mr. Ray, you ready? Yes. All right, let's go ahead and get started this evening with the City of Centerton Planning Commission meeting, September 19th, with a roll call.
Brendan Swoboda,
Here.
Tony Davis, Ben Lewis, Don Sessoms,
Here.
Jerry Harris,
Here.
Frank Langford,
Here.
Kevin Murphy,
Here.
Joey Engel, Jeff Safer.
I'm here as well. First thing on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from 9/5 of 2023.
John, I motion to approve the minutes from 9/5/23.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right. Huh?
Couldn't hear you over that.
Oh.
Thank you.
The loud noise.
Next on the agenda is the ratification of the admin approvals. There are two. One's a pet care service and one is an Innobuild whatever it is. It's a building admin office for interior contractor. Are there any questions or comments from any of the commissioners or staff? If not, then I would entertain a motion to ratify the admin approvals.
Mr. Craig, I make a motion to approve the ratification of administrative approvals.
Second. Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Old business, first on the agenda is the change to the PC approved recommended amendments to code section 14.04.04 K. The maximum buildage coverage increased to 55% due to area remaining after setbacks applied. Just
Okay, that's me. When we reduced the setback for the RTH 5, it ended up with the remaining area of 55%, and we just had maximum building coverage of 50%. So they recommended that we increase that to to a minimum of being the remaining area of what is left for the building area. The other, so I got that amendment in, but then also one other part of this is that if it's 50% and that's all, or 55%, and that's your buildable area, then your accessory, there was nothing that addressed accessory structures. So I would like to go back to the council with your recommendation and add a statement under on number 6, and you might zoom in there a little bit. But we have accessory buildings. First, change that to accessory structures so that it includes, like if they have a pool, they can have, which is an accessory structure, not a building. So make that more clear. And then add C, accessory structures shall not be subject to the maximum building coverage calculation as provided. That way they're outside of that building. Otherwise, that just makes it clear that they're not, that the buildable area is not limited. Is not include the accessory structures. Otherwise, they probably, your building's gonna be much smaller.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay. I probably over-explained.
any questions or comments from any of the commissioners? You just need us to make a motion or recommendation.
Yes.
It's John, I motion to approve staff's recommendation So the edits as prescribed.
Greg, a second.
Motion and a second. Is there anyone that's opposed? Thanks, Lorraine. Next on the agenda in our old business is subdivision 2212 Kenyon Place preliminary plat. It's at the northwest corner of Kenyon and Keller Road. It is zoned R3 single family, 40 acres, 151 single family lots. Yes, sir.
Motion to bring it back to the table.
Yes, thank you. I would entertain a motion to bring it back to the table.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Right. Yes, sir.
My name is Christopher Long. I'm representing Expedient Civil Engineering. And last time we had discussed the plans and tabled them. We had made some modifications, as you can see. We had shored up the tree preservation. What we ended up doing was taking the trees that were in good condition on the lot lines and trying to preserve as many of those as possible. And also referencing C19, which was not clearly stated last time. We had tree replacement on C19. And with the total amount of trees, with the tree preservation as well as the trees that we're replacing, we'll be maintaining a count of 105 trees total. With the modifications that were made, and I've been in contact with Diane throughout the day today. And on Friday to make sure that we can hopefully get this approved tonight. And the adjacent letter I talked to her about, so once the vote has been taken, we'll get that adjacent signature page TL as well.
Diane, do you have some additional things to add or?
Yes, and of course, I wasn't here last time to know exactly what you guys had gone over. But just as a refresher, it is a 146 lot, single family subdivision on 48 acres at the northwest corner of Keller and Kenyon. Is directly north of Crystal Cove. Crystal Cove is right about in this area, so it doesn't cover the entire south side. It does include a detention lot on the northwest portion of the development and one lift station just to the south of that. They will be completing street improvements along Kenyon Road on the Crystal Cove frontage to include curb and gutter. So they're basically going to be finishing out what Crystal Cove has done in their area. So Crystal Cove currently has done just paved the street and gutters on both sides and a sidewalk. So they're gonna be coming back, doing curb and gutter on both sides and a sidewalk on their side. Where it's right adjacent to Crystal Cove, and then from Crystal Cove east to Keller Road, they're gonna be doing street improvements. That's on their side, and Crystal Cove already paved all the way to Keller. So if maybe that made sense, because I know last time they said, those street improvements kind of made everybody's brain go in a circle. So they're gonna be finishing out what Crystal Cove didn't fit. And then for landscaping, like you said, they have updated the plans for the trees that they are going to be protecting that are currently out there. And they are providing street trees along Kenyon and Keller. And along Kenyon, they are located because they're a smaller tree. They're located at the back of the curve, so between the sidewalk and the curb. And on Keller, by all means, correct me if I have this backwards, Chris. They are behind this sidewalk. So that way there's some more space there on Keller Road and they will be larger trees. But they are the entire length of their property along Keller and also Kenyon Road. And they are doing one tree per 25 linear feet of street frontage.
Can you show the preservation plan?
Sure, I can show them. Scroll back up to it real quick. Did I put them in the same place? No. That would have made sense. So there's what they can preserve, the ones that have the little clouds around them.
37.
And then at the bottom, there's a table that shows how many of those that are in that cloud.
It might be all right.
And they do have a
Those
trail.
Big oaks, we're gonna count those.
There, the Mississippi Spring Loop Trail does run along the west side of Keller Road, where they are developing the 12-foot wide trail there along Keller Road. Along with widening of Keller from the existing pavement to the planned 19-foot back of curb. So about 4 feet of widening, minimum of 8 feet from the proposed face of gutter to be milled and overlaid. With a minimum of 3 inches of asphalt, 9 feet of green space, a 12-foot trail. And drainage will also be provided, and streetlights will be installed at the entrance into the subdivision.
Say 3 inches of asphalt.
Yes. That's what the approved.
Bunkers are 4 inches.
Before. Something to be corrected on the adjacent street agreement. It should be 4 inches of asphalt. Right, and I don't know if there was anything else that you guys had questions on from the previous discussion you guys had. There are no floodplain or wetlands. The wetlands assessment was completed and none are present. It's going to connect to city water from existing water along Keller Road in Kenyon. And they will have a lift station that will connect to an existing manhole on the south side of Kenyon Road adjacent to Crystal Cove phases 1 through 3. And it is the proposed.
Any additional questions or comments in regards to the preliminary plat? There are not, then I would entertain a motion for subdivision 2212 East Kenyon Place preliminary plat.
And the adjacent street agreement with the change. Or
And yes.
John, I'll motion to approve subdivision 2212 Kenyon Place preliminary plans, street.
Joey, a second.
Motion second. Is there anyone that's opposed? Thanks for the information tonight.
Appreciate it.
All right, on a new business, the first one this evening is track split 2304. Stubbs dedicating right of way 8778 Tycoon Road. Zone with a parent track of 33.08 and parent track of 3308, track 1 of 2339, and track 2 of 9.69. How are you guys tonight? Good. You'll state your name and then what you guys are wanting to do.
Bonnie just Stubbs.
Paul Stubbs.
We don't agree with the dedication. Our big farm. Well, that's
We're
it.
trying to do a simple agriculture track split.
Yeah, and it's on the other opposite side of our properties. I don't understand why we have to dedicate a portion of our land on the opposite side just to get a track split.
We're going to cover this from staff. Is it you, Eric? Or Lorraine? Or
Well, I mean, I can speak on some of this, that, it's not considered an agricultural lot split when you split off 2 acres. It has to be a minimum of 5 acres. And this has been previously subdivided. So am I on the right? Yeah. It's 2 acres, 5 acres and 2 acres. This time, how many? This being, oh, 9. Okay. So it could be.
I mean, regardless of the size though, even if it met the minimum requirements, the right of way dedication would still be required, right?
So once it becomes a minor subdivision, so when you split a tract into 4 or more piece parcels, it constitutes a minor subdivision.
Mhm.
So you're dividing it enough times for that, and part of that is dedicating the right of way. Where with a full subdivision, you'd have to do the right of way improvements. Here, it's just dedicating the right of way.
It's just it looks like the property line goes to the center of the road right now, right?
Yes. They have previously on a previous track split on Huber Road. There was shown 25 foot of right of way dedication from the center line of the road. It's the new track split is just very difficult, the way that he does his labels to see. But we have been looking at this is a very unique piece because they are surrounded by 3 existing roads and then 1 future road. So the impact to the property, it's a lot. You have 2 arterials on this.
Is the future road on the north?
Correct.
Yes. So I didn't hear back from them, so I had actually was prepared to table it until we got back
the
from meeting.
meeting today until this morning.
Pardon?
We didn't know anything about the meeting today until this morning.
Okay,
Emails were sent, but he's not receiving them, so. Our surveyor is the one that called us and told us that we were on the agenda for today.
Okay, I don't know if I have a bad email. I had sent one saying that I was going to look into the requirements, and see what we could do. And then I had sent a proposal to you all. And then I had sent another one to say I haven't heard from you, so.
Not seen any of them.
Okay,
Any of them, and when I talked to the surveyor and I asked him to forward me the email that you sent. I asked him if our email was on it and he said, yes. I said, well, can you send it to me? So he did. And it went back several emails. So I've seen what emails were sent, but I hadn't got them beforehand.
what I did do, I did send this to Garver also to review and just kind of give their opinion. And they did ask how this would be considered. Would it be considered an agricultural lot split or would it be considered a subdivision? We're looking at it as a subdivision lot split because it was they would be creating more than 3 parcels. They do have a home located on the north property line that 45 foot future road, it would impact that. It would have to really, they recommended reducing that to a 40 foot right of way. So then you would still have your 25 foot setback. 40 feet was also dedicated on the other side. And that would be consistent. So, but also they recommended, and Brian hasn't seen any of this, they also recommended getting with legal and discussing that. What I had asked of the Stubbs is they did write a letter stating that there was a hardship on this. And then I asked what they would be, what do they feel they would dedicate? Tycoon is a major arterial for, that's the highway department's plan to end up coming through there.
The highway.
279, eventually connecting into Tycoon and down. It's a plan, a future plan.
Do you know how far in the future?
With them, it could be
3 years?
yeah, it could be 50 years. I don't know.
Well, and another thing I wanted to make sure you knew was there is a natural gas line.
Through the middle.
Summit's natural gas line, it's a 24-inch out of the VSI line. My high pressure taps are on my north boundary.
Right, so they're right on the fence line. Stubbs said, ask him, an employee was out there checking, because they have to come once a year to check.
We're out there like once a month.
Oh, well, ask him, you know, if that had to be moved, what all would it entail? And he said, there's only one company around here that would do that, and it costs, you know, over $200,000. I don't know.
They would.
I don't know anything sure.
It shouldn't impact your meter, your system tabs.
Pressure tap comes right off that 24.
It would be in right of way, and the franchise utilities can technically be in the right of way.
You could build a road over that,
Well, nobody's building, I don't think anybody's building a road at this point in time.
but if, I mean, in the future.
Eventually it could, yeah, and then it would have,
Dedication, so that's gonna put that high pressure tap in the center of the road. Someone said, no, no one can build over it. So that has to be moved.
right, and that's all considerations with the road going through there in the future.
But we wanted to, you know, point that out as another reason why we wouldn't agree into a dedication
Sure.
of any land right through there.
Does the minor subdivision make sense? Is that the first time you're hearing that this evening?
I have a question on that. You said 4
Because it's blend
tracks, but I only see 2.
It was previously, yeah.
You can see how it's being kind of carved out. And when pieces are being, you know.
Is there a time limit for that? I mean, at some point, everything's in 1700, this was all one part. I mean,
It's correct, but in different areas around the region, it doesn't matter how many times it was split. If you platted the property, you would dedicate the right.
so it's, okay.
If you buy the property,
If you plat the property. no.
That's enough. It was like, you know, eventually everything gets split and split and split and split, and split. I didn't know if there was.
Not necessarily, because then we don't have control over what happens in a subdivision area.
It's to prevent people from just continually splitting off without any improvements. And I mean, we've had,
I get it. Yeah, so the
um,
right of way would be there regardless if it was a subdivision or not.
right, and another main thing is that the setbacks will be from that right of way. So that protects that area so that future road improvements can be done. So that's one of and that's what we use, the planning department. You can have dedicated right of way, so then public works, they have their right of way that they can maintain. And then you can have planned right of way, and that sets that setback from that planned right of way, so it protects that area. So those are two ways that the right of way can be shown.
Yeah, and well, I mean, here's the other thing. You okay? I'm good. That road's likely never going to develop until that property sells and somebody develops the land, if you guys ever sell it.
hopefully one day.
Sure. So how close, a 40-foot dedication, how close does it put it to the house? 20 feet?
25 feet.
40 foot puts it 25 feet? And setback's 25, right? So that, yeah, so 45. 45 puts it 20 feet to the house. I just think it's kind of a sticky situation to adjust your right of way dedication based on existing structure.
Well, the other caveat to that,
It's kind of trigger, I agree with what he's saying.
the other, I guess, at our requirements at that time were 40 feet. That's what they did on the other side. That was just, these are just things for the commission to consider on what should be required.
I don't even see the right of way dedication on the north.
It's not shown on this plat.
Okay.
That's what the staff is. That's what, we're looking on, so that when they resubmit the plat, that they show it correctly.
Sure. Why did we only go 40 on the property to the north of it?
That's what the requirement was for an.
At the time?
At that time.
Alan, have you looked at the difference between the two? Like if there's an extra 5 feet, does that actually gain anything?
No, I mean, on our minor arterials, which is what Huber would be. It's a 3-lane road, so it's just additional right of way space. Cause our major collectors, again, a 3-lane and it's only 80. Well, across the street from them on Tycoon, there's subdivision going in that they have dedicated the 90-foot right of way there.
So it'd have to transition.
Sure is that.
Huber's a minor.
Oh, you're talking to you. Okay, you're
Yeah.
talking to. Okay.
Oh, yeah, and Tycoon would be the 100-foot, 50 on each side. So in the future, it can be widened to 5 lanes.
Sure.
Huber already exists. Why does it need to come through there?
It's the east-west connection going through, the hope would be to go through there, because that lines up with all the way.
Has anyone talked to y'all about the master street plan? That's what all of this is based on.
And when we built the house, we just moved in a couple of years ago, so it's fairly new. We didn't know anything.
So there's
Moved the house, we could have moved it anywhere on the property, but I was trying to get closer to my mom.
there's a document that's been accepted by ordinance. And it's the master street plan for the whole city. And that's what kind of drives these right of way dedications, and it's right there on the screen. And so that's the extension of Huber coming across the north side of that property.
And it's gonna come to Tycoon Road, because Tycoon Road's supposed to be a major.
Is that 100-foot?
Actually, the goal is to eventually connect it even further west to 102, so that'd be your, the next east-west connection that goes all the way from 102 on the west side of town. All the way to Greenhouse eventually. But there's a lot of sections in there that need to be constructed out. This would be one of them, so having the right of way there allows us to do that in the future.
80 acres already connects to one.
Correct, but not all the way east. Trying to have that one connection that goes that whole length east to west through town. Hence the minor arterial designation wants to be that the bigger road that goes all the way through. 80 acres is kind of like Huber Road there next to it. It's just a local street for connectivity for homes.
So Tony, I heard you talk earlier. What are you thinking on the 40 or 45?
I think we go by our standards. I mean, if our plan calls for 45 feet,
And it's not coming.
the plan, I'm confused on the plat that I'm looking at.
The impact any.
Because it looks like the plat is not
20 feet from the structure.
center line of the road. It looks like the property line basically takes up.
We have to have.
My Tycoon property line is about center. That's the west side. Fence between Wade and me, the north boundary. Enter Huber Road going to where it makes the north turn. My property line, my pin is actually over on Huber. The whole road's on me. We surveyed it several times. I know where all the pins are.
Yeah, no, that's what I was.
And I'm not against road, guys, just don't get me wrong on that, but this is a pretty simple agriculture track split. And I would sell anything for a road, but to give up something, I spent 40 years paying for it. Just to sell off 10 acres.
Can we come back and address this when the road gets?
Whole different story then, if it's not platted that way. Which is the reason that we get it up front.
Say that again?
If if we don't get it now,
The right of way.
the right of way, then it's a different story whenever they want to do it in the future, whether that's a year, 5 years, or 20 years down the road. It's a different story then. If we already have the right of way, then they can do what they need to do.
And this is something that happens on most lot splits that have a master street plan right away adjacent to them. It's. I know y'all have been dealing with this, but it's not uncommon, and I'm sorry you didn't know about it. But. You know, I don't know what else to say, really. I completely understand your position.
If you guys want my opinion, I think there needs to be a meeting that would take place outside of here. Now that we've hopefully answered some questions, we've probably created more questions. It sounds like between the engineer, maybe getting him a little more involved. And then meeting with the city would probably be the best thing to do. And then come back to us with whatever we consider an acceptable proposal. And then go from there. That's what I would suggest. We could do one of three things tonight. We can take a vote. It can be accepted or it can be rejected, or we can table it. And if we table it, then there's really no impact. We would see you next time whenever you feel comfortable. If it gets rejected, then I think it would be a while before you come back. But now that we've talked about this with the fourth split, it creates this minor subdivision. So that's one thing to consider. And then, of course, the right-of-way dedication is the other big thing. If I would suggest a meeting that would take place with the engineer, with staff, and with yourselves to kind of talk through all of these details. They're going to do us. So Lorraine alluded to Garver. They do some outside work. They'll have some information back as well that they can certainly share. Anything that we do from a planning perspective is open to the public and available. So that would be my suggestion, but I would request that you guys ask us to table it, and then we can move forward, or we can try to take a vote tonight. It's up to you guys.
How about we table it? Try to get some things figured.
Are there any other questions though that we may be able to answer? I mean, we gave you the big picture and the reason why they are what they are. And then go from there. And if emails aren't working, y'all pick up the phone.
That email that he sent me, that way you'll have mine and just send it to that one. Okay.
Yeah, because I've not received. That surprised me when the surveyor called. Well, it's on the agenda tonight.
Well, I was gonna ask them just to table it, so I was surprised.
I don't understand it either.
Because I wasn't, I just had said I would like to table before because I hadn't heard from you all, so.
Well, I'll respond with my email, that way you'll have it, and then if you in the future just send it to that.
John, I motion to table track split 2304.
Motion and a second to table. Is there anyone opposed? Thank you, guys. All right, next on the agenda this evening is Development 2108 Christian Life Center. Request for 1-year extension. It's on the west side of Gamble Road, north of Valley Oaks subdivision. It is zoned R3 single family with a conditional use 20-11 for a place of worship. It is 2.8 acres.
Dirk is on Zoom.
Thank you for reminding me. Dirk, if you're out there, you may address the plan commission.
Sorry, I was looking for the unmute button. Good evening. My name is Dirk Thibodeau with HAF, representing Christian Life Center. We came to you with this development and got it approved. Part of this development required that it go through the Department of Health. There's some water main expansion and sanitary sewer extensions on this project. And when we ran it through the Department of Health, it couldn't move forward with their review due to Centerton's sewer capacity study that was being done. So we got put on an inevitable hold until that study was released. Once the study was released, our plans were released from the Department of Health to move forward. But due to that time delay, we've run out of time. So we're asking for the extension of the approved project.
Okay, thanks, Dirk.
Thank you.
Kayla, anything to add?
He covered it pretty well. You guys approved the large scale development preliminary in 2021. That lapsed, so you guys reapproved it in 2022, and then they were ready to go, but they got caught up in that sewer ADH purgatory for a little while, so we're back again for another extension.
Alan, do you agree with the cost estimate for the road work?
I did. I don't know what it is right now. I know when they went over it, I looked at it and it was fine. I have no idea what it is now.
$60,926.
That was when
I'd have to
That was
see.
2 years, 3 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Put it on the screen.
Oh, it'll be accurate today.
This is the fee in lieu estimate for the road improvement.
I'd have to look at it again. Some of them, like they have their curb as cubic cars at a linear foot.
Yeah.
So not really sure what that translates to. That's probably low.
Am I allowed to continue to speak?
Yes.
Yeah, well, again, in the church's defense, if it had moved forward by no fault of their own, this wouldn't even be discussed. So it wasn't their issue that it couldn't move forward. It got stopped because of Centerton's study
Well,
that was being conducted.
The sewer deal has not been going on for 2 years, so there was the first period of
First year.
time that was at the church's discretion. I understand the second one. I don't believe that's also been going on for 2 years or a year. So I think that statement might be a bit inaccurate, but I think we need to do our due diligence here and make sure that the fee in lieu is still accurate unless you guys just want to construct that.
And we'll also mention we're still waiting for building plans for building.
Oh, and you don't have building plans then, okay. So I would propose that we approve the request contingent upon Alan's review and final estimation. Is that acceptable? Okay, and then Dirk, you don't have to come back or do anything like that.
Perfect.
They did put a fair amount in overhead on this.
Yeah, we'll just take a look, Alan. Let's just make sure.
It might
Maybe
be-
maybe it is all good.
It might be.
I hope it is. I just think we should wait.
Are there any other questions or comments? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve the 1-year extension request for development 2108. Contingent upon Alan's review of the fee in lieu for the road improvements.
John, a second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Next on the agenda this evening is
Thank
thanks, Dirk. Next on the agenda is a public hearing. It is conditional use 2305 Hitch and Go Rental. They're a trailer rental company at 1151 Ellen Ray Lane. It is lot 6 in the Forest Park Phase 1 subdivision, which is zoned R3 single family. The applicant here to give us an overview of what you guys are requesting.
How's everybody doing? Just my wife Allison. I'm Scott. We're the owners of Hitch and Go Rentals. So we're looking for a conditional use to use our property for storage strictly. We do have 2 trailers. One's a 20-foot utility trailer. The other's it's a 10x6 enclosed trailer. I think you guys have pictures of it. I'm not sure if there was a picture of them on there. So we're just looking to park there. The trailers are unbranded, so they're just individual trailers. We do have signs that are removable that we put on and take off as we do it.
Put out here.
Yeah, so the logos on that are getting pulled off based on, they're on there now. We put them on, the stickers on them got damaged, so we just tried to put something on there. But as it sits right there, that's pretty much the layout you'd be looking at there. Not really an eyesore as opposed to the. We drove the neighborhood, just kind of get a gauge on how many trailers were there, and we came up with 30 total trailers on 24 different properties. And some of them look worse than this. We got pictures of those too, if you guys need to see them. So we're just looking to park there. It pretty much look like this. As far as traffic goes, we're not looking at a lot. The trailers, we only do daily, we don't do hourly, we do half-day rentals when you rent it to one time. So if somebody here wanted to rent it today, we would take it off premises. Nobody's coming to the neighborhood, nothing like that. We usually meet in a parking lot, in a restaurant or something. Deliver the trailer and then it's gone for 24 hours. We don't do it, so it's not coming in and out every single day. Oftentimes, last month, for example, we're just starting out. We had a total of, it was out, I think, 10 to 12 days. And it only got returned once. There was a point where the trailer was gone for an entire week and we didn't even see it. So it's strictly when it's back type deal. We are going into slow season, so they wouldn't be parked there normally when it's snowing and stuff. But as I said, we're new. We don't know what it's going to do this year. We have no idea how the winters are going to go. That's pretty much it. We just,
As far as drop off, how do they return the trailer? Do you meet them again?
yeah. Well, so the point was, is we don't want to devalue our neighborhood either. So that's why everything's clean. We keep them clean. There's no stains in the driveway. And anything that's damaged gets repaired. We've seen like the neighborhood behind us, I forget what it's called, but some of the neighborhoods over there are kind of, you know, people let them go. There's grease stains in it. There's junk in the yards. And we like our house being worth what it's worth, you know. So we don't want to devalue the property, so it will always look just like that to the best of our ability.
So I guess my
Covenants
question
or
is, why
anything
are
like
you
that?
having to store it in your driveway? Because storing it at your place.
So we don't, we have a home occupation permit. We don't have a brick and mortar yet. As of now, it doesn't pay enough to do that. We are hoping someday to do that, and I'm hoping this time next year, if you guys approve it, that we're not having this conversation again, and it's enough. We don't have to talk about this ever again. Hopefully, the next time we see you, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing plans for storefront. So it's just something we were trying to do as a side business as of now, but we're leaning into it to grow it. And if we do end up buying any more trailers, those will be stored off site. But as of now, we're not in a position to really pay for storage fees yet.
And this is a staff question, but there's no ordinance that doesn't allow a trailer parking in your driveway, correct? As long as it's out of the right of way?
Correct.
Right, as long as it's not blocking the sidewalk, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there are no POAs for our neighborhood. There are covenants, but Mayor Bill, and I think I talked to Kayla as well, they're not enforced because there is no POA.
We don't enforce covenants. Either way.
We don't enforce the covenants, but the covenants do mention trailers and recreational vehicles.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And we looked those up also.
There it is.
So I guess where we're at too is we understand that we are using it for, I guess technically commercial purposes. But as far as traffic, I don't want people knowing where I live either. So we don't tell people where we live. We meet them somewhere else. Usually we'll take it to the customer's house and drop it off and pick it up there also. So the issue that we're having is that there's a guy that lives 2 houses down from us, has almost the exact same car trailer, and he's not here talking to you guys, but we are. So, and I understand it's the only difference is because we have a business license and he doesn't, if that makes sense.
If you had no business at all, where would a trailer be parked? Right where it's at.
Exactly. So, and I thought it was, I mean, without getting into detail, I just thought it was kind of crazy, honestly, that we were had to do this kind of deal, but I understand we're trying to do it the right way. And we want to do everything legit, so, we're not trying to step on any toes, we're trying to make a good name for ourselves out here, so that's why we're here.
And I may have missed it at the beginning. Are we talking about one trailer? Are we talking about?
It's two, so there's one behind the fence, you could probably see the crown popping over it on the picture, it's out on the right-hand side there, behind the fence.
The one behind the fence, one in the yard?
Yeah, and the one behind, so, and then
Uncovered.
initially, we were gonna put the big one behind the fence, but we have an air conditioning unit on the side of the house that can't be moved. And it's about a foot too wide, so,
Additionally, I feel like it is less obtrusive having the open deck utility trailer out front opposed to a enclosed trailer.
I see.
yeah, and
There's no property damage when you're pulling that trailer in and out of the adjacent property that property line runs through.
it goes straight over there, so, and we did have, there was an issue with one spot, I don't know if it was because of the trailers or the water, but we had a part, sidewalk sink, but we fixed it. So we just put new dirt in and the grass grew over it and everything's good now, so.
That would be my only concern is the continual
Yeah.
running over that sidewalk portion.
The ruts eventually, if you did that, eventually they run it over the sidewalk and into the neighboring, somebody may get out there and measure the property line and say, well, you're.
Yeah, and I don't know if it eases your guys' conscience at all, but when it comes out, you can't see it in the photo. But we don't drive a truck in there. We have a little hand dolly, we pick it up and pull it out. And this is based off the 2 or 3 weeks that we've operated there before we went through all this. But it comes out, it goes around that basketball hoop straight onto the driveway. It does touch the sidewalk a little bit, but we're talking maybe a foot and a half. So.
And additionally, that was the enclosed trailer that's behind the fence was a personal use trailer before we converted it over to the business.
So yeah, and that trailer's been there for a while too, so it's, but we have nothing else to add. If you guys have anything, if you got any questions.
Ayla, do you want to cover the city portion?
Yeah, they hit on most of it, so they do have that home occupation permit that you guys approved. Allow them to do the business administratively. They did have to remove the trailers off the premise for us to approve that conditionally. So that's why they've come back to ask to store the trailers on their property. So as you guys saw in the picture, one trailer is proposed to be stored behind the 6-foot privacy fence, and that's the enclosed cargo trailer. And then the other trailer, which is the flatbed, is located in the driveway. Surrounding zoning and uses, it's surrounded by R2 because Forest Park is R2. To the east is the proposed Casa Castillo development, which is C3 with a PUD. To the south is Legacy Sports Academy, and a little bit off to the east is the Come and Go, which both of those are C3. Come and Go has that conditional use. To the west is Charlotte Estates, which is R2, and then to the southwest is Black Spring subdivision, which is R3 SF. The covenants were probably our biggest thing as well. So there was a set of covenants that were recorded for Forest Park subdivision in 2012. I talked to Garver and to our legal to see how much weight we should be putting in these covenants. So any action by the POA in relation to the covenants would be fully independent of the city's determination on this conditional use application. And the final determination on this application in no way relieves a responsible party from any provisions of the covenants. So the covenants still stand even if we say, yes, the covenants are still. But it was my understanding, I couldn't find an active POA for Forest Park, and when I.
Yeah, they could be sued by any property owner, that's in there. Right.
So we, if it helps at all too, you guys will notice, if you ask anybody else to comment, nobody else to come up here. We've already filled out most of our neighbors in almost every direction. And I know Kayla did get one. It was rental properties, correct, at the end?
It's West Pinkley.
West Pinkley. He was hesitant or doesn't agree with it. But that being said, all the neighbors directly next to us, 2 or 3 houses in every direction, have no problems. We've already talked to them about how we keep it clean and let us know. So I don't know if that bodes well or not.
I just wanted to clarify though, the legal. I guess tie there is even if the city approves, that doesn't stop the POA from or anybody in that POA as a member from seeking.
Yeah, as far as I know, we don't have one yet. So, and like I said, in a year's time, I hope we're well beyond this. If everything goes well, we will be.
So it is within Forest Park subdivision, so it has the typical local roads and sidewalks, and it's connected to Centerton Water and sanitary sewer. In terms of special conditions, I recommended a year from the date of approval, at which time they can come back and ask for a longer period of time, or if they don't need it anymore, they can discontinue the use. For the number of trailers, we recommend allowing up to a maximum of 2 trailers as described in the description, and there's another condition, number 5, where we outline it a little more. So only 2 be parked at the premise. For the storage of trailers, Garver recommended that they only be allowed to park it behind the privacy fence or in the 3-car garage. They are requesting to be allowed to park that 1 flatbed in their driveway. For the size and type, we recommend that any trailers associated with this conditional use may only be bumper pull style, specifically cargo, utility, or flatbed, and be a maximum length of 20 foot. So we're not getting super huge trailers in this area. And at no time will the trailers be parked along the public street. I've got that condition about the POA approval, just once again reiterating that this decision is fully independent of the POA. So the POA still has that power. And then pick up of the trailers, at no time shall the customers come to the resident's house to pick up the trailers for rent. It's the responsibility of the business owner to move the trailers to and from the premise so that we're not having a lot of outside traffic coming in and out. We did get the 1 public comment from West Pinkley regarding concern about the ambience of the neighborhood. And then I wanted to bring up, if we're gonna set conditions on this, does there need to be a weight limit condition? I don't know enough about trailers to say whether or not.
They're hauling them in and out, they're empty.
Yeah, so our biggest trailer will only hold a combined weight of 1,000 pounds. And again, they're empty at our house, and they will never be loaded unless we're using it for personal use, and even then it would just be move a car. Something and drop it off, and no heavier than any tow truck would be, probably less so.
I think the only thing I would add is what we were talking about earlier, any damage to the public infrastructure. Would be on the business owner to replace the sidewalk tile if it.
Again, I mean, as it would if we put in a swimming pool and it got damaged, right? Like we would be liable to fix that as well, so. That's something we have considered and have accepted, that if something does happen, it will be fixed.
And I would also.
We'll just need to list that in the conditions and then.
I'll add it.
on
Gosh, I lost it. Oh, do you guys want to specifically add the condition that if the trailers are parked in the driveway, they have to be empty? I mean, that goes without saying, but do you want to add that?
I don't know that we would know if it's personal or not.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to have to mess with that.
If it's loaded for 10 minutes while you're like, moving your personal things, then I don't want somebody to report that, and then now you violated your conditions. Right, so.
Yeah, the unforeseen circumstances will be the only reason we'd ever use that. The enclosed we have used to move some stuff like couches and stuff like that, typical stuff you would with a trailer. And as far as personal use, the car trailer would ever only be used to pick up the car, and then it would be taken off. It would never be left in the driveway chained up or anything. And like I said to you guys before, we have zero interest in lowering the value of our neighborhood. We've lived there for 3 years and we love our neighborhood. It's quiet, it's great, people are real nice. So if it would never come to that, but if it ever came to that, we would expect you guys to be like, all right, you're done, so.
Which is one of the conditions. You have your typical, if there's a complaint, if they don't do what they're supposed to, it can be terminated.
And it gets reviewed every year, right?
Yes, they have 1 year and then they can come back and ask for a longer period of time, but it sounds like hopefully not going to.
Are there any other questions before we open it up to the public?
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for conditional use 2305.
Second.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? All right, we are now open to the public. Anyone that wishes to speak, have any questions or comments in regards to the requested conditional use for Hitch and Go at 1151 Ellen Ray. We'd ask that you come to the podium and state your name and address and any questions, comments that you might have. Second call for anyone that wishes to speak. And third and final call.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for conditional use 2305.
Second. Motion, you can give it to whoever you want on a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, and again, as Kayla stated, there was a resident that owns two houses that sent the note in as well. Are there any additional questions or comments in regards to the conditional use 2305 for Hitch and Go rental? The only additional condition that was added was that any infrastructure damage would need to be repaired. It's the only one I think that we added or changed.
Would need to be repaired within a certain period of time? Or just repaired, period, when it's up?
I'll say in alignment with the city, whatever it is. It's sidewalk, you don't know if they're repairing other parts of the sidewalk, you know, I don't know, I would probably say whatever the public works.
Well, they don't.
Whatever timeframe. Well, no, I mean, they repair it, but in whatever the city public.
Potentially, you just use the word within a reasonable time. I'd like to have some sort of timeline, but I mean, it's real hard to you look and see exactly what, if any damages, what the scope of that would be, so that.
Okay. Reasonable time.
Within 30 days of
TBD.
I can go 90 days on the timeline. It's hard to get concrete.
one
Were you
back.
good with simply stating a reasonable time, or did you want to define?
No, I'm actually okay with the term, because we don't know what we're gonna be dealing with at that point, and maybe 90 days is great now, but maybe it's not then, and it just really depends. So I really hate to.
You said sidewalk, which is the most likely one, but if they go over their own curb and smash that, that's significantly more work than sidewalk.
Water can't, I don't know if they have
Yeah.
utilities over there.
So reasonable's fine, because you don't.
Cool.
Sidewalk being certainly the most likely and the east.
Reasonable it is.
Go with some ambiguous lawyer like.
We,
Lawyer wrote that condition.
Strict or.
Paid by the letter.
He's
He
just-
likes reading them.
He's patting himself. He has to defend reasonable.
That's an hour.
If there are no additional questions or comments, then I will entertain a motion for conditional use 2305 for the Hitch and Go rental trailer rentals.
It's John, I'll motion to approve conditional use 2305 with the additional conditions set forth infrastructure repairs.
Greg, a second.
Motion and a second. Samantha, if you'll do a roll call for me, please.
Brendan Swoboda,
Yes.
Tony Davis.
Yes.
John Sustum.
Yes.
Jerry Harris.
Yes.
Fred Langford.
Yes.
Devin Murphy.
Yes.
Joey Engel.
Yes.
Jeff Safer.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Development 2305 Fair Street Village Mobile Home Park. Preliminary plans at 280 Fair Street. Reminder, it's zoned R3 MF. It is an existing mobile home park. It's 1.58 acres, or sorry, 1.5 acres. How are you tonight? Your name and what you guys are requesting?
Teresa Torelli, one of the owners, and we're requesting approval.
All right. Diane?
And to also let you guys know, Guy, her husband, is also on the line.
Is that who we spoke with last time about the moving permit? No.
That was a different trailer.
There was Guy and then also
Not different.
Nicholas. mentioned. Thank you for having a better memory than I do.
Yeah, that's the one that was moving the old ones out.
Yes, and that's what they,
70s, yeah, okay.
yes, that is the correct one. This is located at 280 Fair Street. It is the existing Fair Street Mobile Home Park that's been there. I looked at Google Earth and somewhere between 1976 and 1980. It was started. So it's been there for a while. It is 1.71 acres. It is zoned R3 multifamily. Because that is pretty much what the entire, as you can see here, the entire kind of downtown core is zoned. It is a mobile home park. And they are providing parking, which is already located within the park. And there are currently 33 spaces. Wasn't a drainage report, but Alan did look at the drainage for the property. And they also had to provide a flood permit application, which Maureen and Alan have looked at, and has that been not approved? What was the correct word, Maureen? Issued? No, it's not been issued yet.
Not issued yet.
Okay.
Still under review.
And that was the tie down requirement, wasn't it? Some of the tie down requirements, anchoring.
Anchor
Height of the
requirements,
pier.
elevation requirement. An elevation certificate before moving in.
Oh,
I remember it being lengthy.
Yes, we still haven't finished up those two permits.
Bring that down there.
Is there more needed from us, our engineer for that?
The elevation certificates.
Yeah, we'll get with you on those too. We were looking to see how much we could combine in this development plan. And since those have already moved in, we need to go ahead and get those finished up. I think it'll be easier, and then the approval of this will go forward on what is needed for any additional homes moved in. So we'll get with that. Any approval, we just ask that it's contingent on the design development permits being issued and
Anything new?
all of it.
Existing, obviously. They're asking for anything new that goes in there to be subject to those conditions, or
Be subject to the conditions on the plus and development permit.
what about, does that include like get well plan for any that are then?
There are two that have been moved in. And there was one permit that was submitted that has what we need. But this site plan and the contours and the elevations, that's really what I needed in order to be able to issue the application. So we're getting information with this development plan that we need to finish up the other two that were moved in. So now we can finish those two up. And then any additional trailers that are moved in, then they will need to comply with the requirements of the floodplain development permit. But those will be, that will be separate from this development. This, you're gonna basically look at the site plan. And then it's, then the flood permit's separate. We will issue a permit, we do a compliance of the permit, and we get the required information that we need.
okay, sorry for the derailment. I just wanted to make you guys aware of the flood permit status. It will have a total of 16 homes. Currently, there are 18. But with the development, they are removing a couple of the homes, so it will be less than what's currently there. They were renovating 10 of those homes and replacing the other 6 of the homes. They have already gone through. I will show pictures toward the end of this, and they were also in your packets. They have gone through and cleaned them up and put new skirting around the bottoms and repainted them, and overall it does look substantially better. It is a non-conforming use of the land because it was there long before, so it was grandfathered in. And as we mentioned earlier, as Lorraine mentioned, the applicant has been granted 3 moving permits previously. But in order to keep them from having to keep coming back to do moving permit, every time they want to update one of those 6 that they plan to replace, they're doing the development plans. The homes in spaces 3, 4, 6, 8, and 12, and I will go to the site plans here, so you guys are guessing what in the world those are located currently within the building setbacks, because again, this was here for a long, long time. So these buildings here in red, that you can see, at least some of them do fall within the building setbacks, and we do ask that if these are ever replaced, those are not the plans currently, that anything that does come in will have to meet, it would have to be on the, you know, in the buildable area for this property, so those would need to be moved. Also, if they are substantially damaged, like 50%, I believe it is, I have it in my notes here, they would have to be moved also to meet the code, the current code. The setbacks are, since it is the multifamily, they are 25 on the front, 20 on, of course, I have it written down and I'm not paying attention to where I am because I'm driving. 25 in the rear, 20 in the back, and 10 on the sides. And like I said, some of those, as you can see, do not meet that currently. There are no additional utilities being added at this time. The existing driveway, they're not proposing to pave this. Because it has previously been the gravel, they are going to widen it to a minimum of 20 feet. And that would be here at this narrowest point. And pave this existing apron. And it would be widened, you know, so it would be a minimum of 20 feet wide all the way around. Back here, it's wider because they have to be able to get to the dumpster and making this curve here also. There will be a newer home here in this location. And like I said, they do have the 33 parking spaces, which is technically 2 per home. But as you can see by their plans, this mobile home is not here currently. This is one that they have applied and received a moving permit for, but they have not found one as of yet. So this would be the parking for this trailer. Another front door is going to be over on this side. There's no parking between this building, and this one. It would be across the street here. Planning would like to see that the parking be adjacent to the buildings. And for each building, there'd be separate parking, so you wouldn't want this parking here to have to go for this building and this building. They have added a storage unit here that's not shown on the plans. There is parking. This would go for this mobile home and this for this mobile home. There's some extra there also, but there still needs to be some things looked at with the parking. And if things have to be moved with parking as far as the building locations, then that would impact the flood permit. I did notice that when we were on site, currently all of the mobile homes are owned by Fair Street. Actually, it's considered Centerton Village LLC. So that would be Guy and his wife. Now I did notice that they have a for lease sign on this particular lot. So that would mean somebody else bringing in a home and adding it to the property. Like I said, as of currently, everything is owned by the Centerton Mobile Home Park. So that's something that I know that's typically the way it works with mobile home parks. But then it's kind of getting into not having as much control of what would go there. As far as adjacent streets, this was platted with the original Centerton City. So there is already the 50 feet of right of way for Fair Street. There are no adjacent street agreements at this time. They are adding street trees along Fair Street. And they are 1 or 25 linear feet, and they are approved street trees per the city.
I'm not seeing that on the plan, but there are street trees.
Yeah. They are. Red bud, and I don't see where the baby cypress are, but there are, red bud, which are.
Oh, that's
Cypress are what already exists. Thank you.
Well, no, well, first question I have, is this considered a large scale?
Yes.
It's currently stamped by a general contractor with a California license. I don't know if that would fly. The other thing is the screening. What is currently out there right now?
Currently, there is a privacy fence on the south side. Let me zoom out here so I can see what's going on. And one of the things that planning would like to see is a privacy fence be added on the north side. There's not one currently existing, and there is a privacy fence on the side of the property. We got on the south, the east.
I think screening around the property would maybe be beneficial.
Yes, we're gonna, on the side that doesn't have a fence, we are. And if I could mention the parking, this first space right here is a small, it has to be very small. So it's only its maximum for it, 46 feet. So we like something cuter and smaller. Yeah, on the second spot, one park's right here. And one park's they just walk across the street, their car's right there, because we put 3 parking spots right here. So they they put one there and they put one here. And then 3, because we have a tree there, they put their 2 right here. But the tree is a good tree. We've had the dead part of it cut out. So, I mean.
Are those parking spots dedicated? and
Yes, they are.
signed?
Yes, they all know.
How do you keep them from parking on the grass in front of the trailers?
Well, I mean, I just tell them, but there's actually like one of them, because we have a couple of potholes and we want to get some of that granite. I call it gravel, but it's not gravel. It's that crushed granite stuff. Fill in those potholes, and in fact, one of the guys, I'm like, okay, we're making the parking spots for you. It's over on the other side, and this is where you'll park. And then once I tell them, they know. They also know, because and that person has been kind of parking a little on the grass, which we want grass. So, I mean, yeah, they work with me. They're like, when we bought this park, we got rid of the bad people. We have good people coming. It's not just people looking for a cheap place to live. So, I mean, and we've, done facelifts on that we can, as much as we can do. On all of them, we've done everything that we can do, so we can get approval to get better models. We have 2 on the back that are about to fall in that creek out there. They look horrible. We want them gone. But we don't have a mobile in there yet that they could move to. So if we displace those 2 people and one of them walks to work, he doesn't have a place to live. The other one is, person would be out on the corner with the street sign looking for a place to live. So, those 2 are horrible. The last 2, bad ones that are left, like I said, till we can get more mobiles in there for them to move to, they're displaced. So we just have to keep, so they're there. They live there. What do you do? We just want to get, like I said, we've worked hard. We've torn down all the old ones. We've torn down 5. I mean, it was 16,000 just to tear down 5 mobiles, and that was the cheapest. I mean, we just want to get more mobiles in there, and they're hard to find. And we want good ones. We want this park to look great. We put way too much. My 80-year-old father has worked. He's amazing. My mom's amazing. We want the park to look good. And I don't know if, it was 10 cans when we bought it.
The dumpster enclosure, it's on the plans, is that enclosed dumpster with they?
Oh, the dumpster that's at the back?
Those dumpsters are-
No, but we would like to enclose it.
That's part of the street we have on.
And it will be
Can't
enclosed.
have an open dumpster.
Right. And the only reason it's not enclosed now is because once we get rid of those two on the back, that dumpster will be adjusted. And then we will enclose. it. But I don't know if you, I mean, I used to drive every day behind Sonic, come up the street and see the disgusting shed that was there, all the junk back there. And pretty much all of that is gone now. We have a couple places getting hauled off tomorrow, but I mean, it's getting better. And if we can just get rid of those two on the back, but we can't till we can move them into another mobile. So that's where we're at right now. It's, you know. And when you do find a good mobile at a decent price that would look good, that we would put in there, they're sold 24 hours and they're gone.
So the intent of this large scale is what?
The intent is so that they have a layout, of what is going to be moved in. And with our approval of this, then they could be allowed to move in and replace mobile homes with a moving permit by the building department.
Okay.
That's the intent,
Otherwise, they have to get a permit for each
each and every one, every time.
they swap out.
And they're sold, they're gone. It's impossible.
So this says that this plan is not submitting for new structures, only noting their future locations when this is actually required.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. I had questioned the
There's a note on the plans that said
statement also.
this plan is not submitting for new structures, only noting their future locations when this is actually required.
They don't have the structures yet waiting to.
Right.
It's given the time to say, this is where they're.
I mean, shouldn't we show where they will go inside of the setbacks?
That's what I was expecting that
This is kind of like a current,
be.
it's like a current, what's out there right now.
If it's nice.
No, some of them are the current ones. Some of them are spaces where the new ones will come with the dimensions.
Okay, the green ones are new.
Those are the only ones we'd be allowed to be moved in that they're getting permission for. For those. 8, 6.
Well, there's 6 additional. I
6.
think we need clarification on what 3 have been approved with a moving permit already. Because I have one decent flood permit for lot number 2.
The space is 1, 2, 3.
And one, we just haven't found a mobile for yet.
Okay, I don't have anything.
It has to be small. Hard to find. We may just end up having to buy.
Back and forth the. Site with the green and the red and the.
What? Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I have it pulled up. It's not showing there. My bad. Sorry, guys.
This one right here, we just have, we need one to go there. They're small, but we do have the, and we can't find one. Let's find one. And then those are already there. And then, let's see. Those are all older ones, but they've had facelifts, look much better. Kevin's about it. That one, we want to get rid of those two that are here, get rid of them. And bring in a newer one. And here in the corner, there used to be one there. And so, you know, if we could get rid of one of those with this guy over here, now he has a home and, you know, then we have this to up here. Or if we have the spaces, that, you know, because with mobile home parks, you have the space for it, so somebody we would want to see, but like, we have people calls from people who are saying, I'm looking for a mobile home to purchase a mobile home. And then we can give them the size. It's okay. We have permits for, so right now, all we can tell them is we have a permit for one 46 feet long, and most people want a mobile home a little bigger than that. But our park will never have really huge mobile homes in there, but at least we can say, okay, if you're going to look for a new mobile home, you know, if you want on the front where it's the grass, you have a bigger yard, this is the size of it. You know not to get anything.
So this is sort of acting like a plat for a mobile home park, essentially. I think we need a plan that shows existing conditions. I think we need a plan that shows future conditions that work inside of the setback that meet the code.
Now, I don't know, because I'm not, these are the ones where the new ones will go. These are the.
Right, well, what if one of those red ones gets torn down and you have to replace it?
We'll have to come back.
They have to come back, okay.
These are only for proposed new units.
That wasn't clear, okay.
The red ones stay, they're there and they're not going anywhere.
I feel like we're missing a lot of the large scale requirements here and like this doesn't really meet.
It feels like a large scale, but it doesn't.
And see, I asked that in the beginning, and I'm not an engineer, I was just a teacher, so I don't have the brain of an engineer. But my question was, which Diane explained to me, like, we're not building a subdivision. You know, it's a mobile home park we bought, that was already existing, and we want to make it a lot better. And I asked her about that, and of course, she explained to me, but, and, you know, I'm not arguing with her, we have to do what we have to do. But, I just, you know, it's like, we've been working on this for like 18.
I get it, and I completely understand trying to improve something that is in need of improvement. But then,
And so some of these green spots are, some of the green ones, they did have something there.
They did have something there.
So connecting to water and sewer and electric in those spots is already
Yes.
approved, grandfathered in, part of the deal.
It's already there.
It's there.
But they will still have to get building permits. When they move a trailer in, they still have to go through the building permits and get their connections for utilities.
Now, but even if they're already there, because we like,
So
oh.
there's no new with this plan, there's no new impact.
The above on that structure.
I think it's just showing where they could go.
Well, and now we have the upgraded, you know, we did the whole 220 electric, you have the upgraded electric on this side and this side. This side down here, so we have the meters ready to go, separate metering, you know, the electric's all there, we got all the approval for all that, we did the approval with the 220 electric up there.
Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up a little bit here. So in my mind, the current infrastructure for this mobile park that exists, that's been grandfathered in, is for everything that's in red. Everything that's in green is the proposed new locations for new. And so how does that impact the current infrastructure?
Well, that's where we would. That's where we were looking at this for improvements to be made. They're wanting to make improvements. There are things, and the city has always looked, if, you know, this ever gets improved, it needed improved. But there's a lot of things that they're still wanting to leave for the development with those improvements. So it's up to the planning commission to determine. I do have concerns. I mean, this is like you said, not the usual layout plan like we see. You see driveways, but there's no connection. The drive, 20 feet wide is a very narrow drive for an entrance drive. Or, we don't typically do anything less than 24. Typically, road improvements are required.
Right.
Adjacent road improvements. The trailer in the lower right corner, there's a blue box. And then I'm wondering how they get to that parking. There's some things that I have had questions on. I haven't received answers. I don't know how long they're intending to leave it gravel, if they're ever in.
That's my other question. Why are we? Yeah.
It's not a road, so we wouldn't require the pavement.
Well, we don't typically,
It's a private drive, so.
we don't typically permit huge gravel parking lots either.
Right now,
they're doing, and there are 18 trailers instead, of which you're improving, well.
we will only end up with
16.
We'll only end up with 16. There was 18. And we could have left those that were there looking like that and collected them.
There's 18 shown on this plan.
Let's see.
No, the numbering is.
Oh, the numbering's off. We don't have a 5 or 13.
16?
Yes.
So Brandon, let me go back and I think I can
Okay.
answer your question. Thank you. Okay. Today, they really don't need to do anything except if they want to move something in, they have to get a moving permit
For each dwelling.
for each one. They are trying to
That process.
to expedite it because there may be a question about whether they can purchase one or not. So bigger picture, they have made some improvements. I drive by this a lot because I visit the Mexican place a lot, but anyway, so yes, they made some improvements, right? The bigger question for us is we consider it as a development plan because they're trying to do the right thing. The bigger question is how many of the development things that we require are we as a commission going to ask or require them to do in order for us to approve it? That's really what we need to decide as a planning commission. So things like the gravel, things like the entrance being 20 versus 24. And so there's a few things like that, the enclosed dumpster and some others that we have to decide, understanding that it's an existing that exists today. They are trying to improve it. So that's what we will have to decide ultimately as a commission. What they've laid out are the facts. The fact is there's existing structures. There's some that have been torn down. There's two that still need to go away. Understanding you don't want to displace people. So there's two that still need to go away. And so that's where we're at. And that's the big picture.
Yeah.
I mean, they could say, okay, we don't want to do anything. We'll come get a moving permit and we're gonna move on with life. They could do that. But they're trying to improve, including adding some of the trees. They agreed to do the screening on the north. What we need to decide are the 2 or 3 critical things and whether we require them now or we require them in 3 years or 5 years. Those are things we will have to decide this evening. But there's also, I think, some outstanding questions. I don't know that everything can be decided by staff. That's, I think, where some of the commissioners' heads are at if I listen to this evening. And so, like, you know, how do we truly define if I can't see the number up there, 1, 2, 3. To me, it's number 3. So if number 3 does eventually go away, whether it's by natural causes or something just happens, you know, how do we know that the new one that gets moved in there will be within the outside of the setback, right? So I think there are some questions that still remain. But also we can give some guidance and direction that then we might be able to come back. I think there's a lot before we turn it over to staff. That's just Jeff's opinion, but you guys, more than just myself. So that's the big
Thank you. Yeah.
paint of the picture, if you will, and some of the things that we need to decide.
And we do know that if we remove any of those that were there, we know we have to go by exactly what you tell us. I mean.
But if you sell it tomorrow,
Right.
somebody else may not believe us.
Right.
And so that's the reason that everything has to be documented and noted so that, again, tomorrow, if you decide to sell it, that whoever buys it knows what they have to do. That's the reason that everything needs to be documented and in black and white with no gray. There's a lot of gray still, I think, in regards to a few things that we may need to see this again. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't feel comfortable from my perspective, but I'm just one. So let us go down the road here a little bit and see what we need to come up with. Okay.
I mean, that sounds good. We would just like to be able to like get some more, even if it's over time. It will take us a while, even though if you say we will give you the rest of the permits you need to bring those mobiles in, it will still take us quite some time because it's hard to find mobiles and they can't, like, people advertise their mobile, but it's too big. So to find them that are not too big, they look good, really super good. It's very time consuming. And then if we don't have a permit to get any, we're just like sitting there with, you know, great spot to put them, but no permit.
Yeah, so before we started moving, have we only replaced units so far? We haven't created any new spots for them, correct?
No, we're not creating any new spots. We're only using existing, like the ones we tore down. Everything's there still for the water, the sewer, the
Sure.
electric, everything. So we tore them down. And now we want to bring one in, put it in that spot.
That's where my question was going. Does this, what
That's the
this
green.
plan shows,
Yes, it should.
combined green and red, does that equal the total number of units that were there before?
Less.
No,
Less. They removed some of it they didn't replace. I remember that.
Now it's 16 instead of 18.
Correct.
And that's just saying 2 more on the back are gonna go, right? That,
Those two on the back will come on, yeah, they're on the. that are
This
back.
is the only one that would be considered truly a new.
New location? Okay.
It's combining two other. ones.
Yeah, I see that. Okay.
And of course, we will enclose the dumpster. We just gotta wait till we get those moved, because we have to adjust where the dumpster's at.
Yeah, and I think Jeff brings up a good point. They could not do anything and still operate.
Yeah.
I think calling it a large scale is a little misleading. It's kind of like just site improvements. So I think there's a fine line of the large scale development requirements but how that applies to this specifically. I do agree that we probably need to show how the vehicles are getting into the parking spaces.
Oh, okay.
No, I understand that they do, but on the plans,
Oh, okay, it's like those come in and park.
right,
that's why I asked for dedication of those dedicated spots, so someone
Definitely, yeah.
3 homes down can't just come take your spot, you know, it needs to show that dedication.
They get out their car, they see their parked right beside it, or like those, oh, she just walks right there.
What does it say? Spot number 2 or
Yeah.
spot number 3 or something? I think
We can do that. That's no problem.
So for instance, those first 3 spots, if I just come in, I park right there, but I live at the back corner. I just wanted to park there because I got a buddy coming.
Do that, no, they can't do that. They know that.
they could.
They could, but
Try, but
they can't.
Even with a sign, they might be able to, but
yeah, I'm not so concerned about that. I think we just show
Give me an example. Like, that was just an example.
we need to show the surface going to the actual parking spots to make sure.
Question is like, are they having to drive over grass?
Right.
and we have it kind of like, yeah, it's got. Like right now, some of them have railroad ties, some, you know, and we're gonna improve on that, but they know, and we have some of that. It's not gravel, whatever it is, we have, and we've got a spot where we want to do that this week. I wanted to see how it goes tonight for 2 more of the spots and the potholes, but they know exactly where their spot is. And you
Sure.
change it, I tell them.
I'm just talking about things that probably need to be on the drawing. Yeah,
Jeff, I mean, I understand what's going on. I think she's trying to do improvements. What,
You're trying to do the right thing.
I guess what I got a question about is we got a non-conforming land use, right? And it's a large scale development and we're trying to.
make it more.
How do you make a large scale development for a non-conforming use? Because i.e. you're either gonna make it conforming or you're not. That's what I'm struggling with, is how you put LSD requirements on a non-conforming use.
And part of this, we looked at how many they were looking at bringing in, which was, I mean, a total of 9 replacements. I mean, new structures. So that was that 50%. So we're looking at improvements, but
That's what I'm struggling. I mean.
yeah, that's where.
And I get this, I mean, it's an extenuating circumstance. I mean, when you look at something that's already there, I don't know if you'd call that, a development plan, because plans aren't there, you're just swapping out.
Well, there were no.
No, I can agree with what they're trying to do. I agree. I'm just, how do we do it?
And I think that we can make decisions and agree as a commission on the things that may or may not conform. So gravel parking lot as an example, we can make a decision on that and make that decision, okay? That's really probably the biggest one, other than street improvement and or
The screening and the fence.
expand the driveway from 20 feet to 24 feet. I mean, those are all things that we can give an exception, if you will, because it's already kind of that non-conforming already exists. We can do that. If they were gonna say, we're taking all of them out,
Yeah.
then then I think it's a different story in which
Or they're.
It's not optional,
more
right?
to than what's already.
Yeah,
correct.
so we're not creating non-conformity,
Right.
it's already there.
It's already
Right.
So,
We're just trying to figure out how to improve it. Not-
Yeah.
I'm trying to fit a round peg in a square hole.
It'll go.
As far as the.
That's how I felt. I've been,
Let's talk about the things you mentioned, Jeff. The driveway. If fire's good with how it is right now,
Fire.
good. I see no reason. It's kind of self-imposed, right?
And they have agreed to pave the apron, right? So that will be an improvement. So is anybody opposed to leaving the driveway gravel?
Screening. I think and these are items that need to be reflected on the plans, what we're talking about here. The screening, I would like some better definition of what's existing, what they're planning on doing. Personally, I think a new fence that matches and is great around the property would be probably the best idea here. The street trees, we'll have to look at, where those are going and in relation to the fence.
Well, there won't be a fence on that side.
Well,
On the west side.
Why not?
West or to the north.
You want a fence up along the road?
everybody, well, what's the setback? I think there needs to be screening in front, whether that's landscaping more than the street trees.
Typical is 25. Yes.
25 offset for a fence.
From
Center.
adjacent right of way.
Okay.
I mean, from the
no,
right.
that's.
And if we don't,
Oh, how far the fence should be?
yeah, if we don't have a fence, that's fine. We do landscaping. I think we need some additional screening on the west side,
Well,
Fair Street.
typically you'd allow for sidewalk and then fencing. Well, there should be enough. I don't believe that the right of way is shown for 50 feet, is it?
No,
I think our problem is it's the road curves. The road is actually more on their side, so then that creates.
yeah, I'm not sure the drawing's accurate on how the street lays in there and the actual boundary of the property.
And according to GIS, I think and if I look back on the old plat, I believe there's only been 1 feet of roadway dedication. On the
Well,
original.
And I think just clarification around how we can better screen that west side.
Mhm.
It doesn't necessarily, because y'all have an 8-foot fence around there, you got taller than a 6-foot, don't you?
On the south side?
Yeah, we don't want a matching. I don't think
No,
we're
it's huge.
matching 8-foot fence on the west side,
No,
but
And we are gonna
Kinda
put one on
that
the
build-
north side,
yeah.
and then the back side, is the creek, and then I guess like that city fence that used to be there, I don't know. But on the front, on the road, if we put up like a fence, it will look crazy.
we're talking about just screening and we're approving this document that you've presented and the items we're talking about need to be reflected on there. So, because that's what we would be approving.
Okay.
So we can't just go off of, you're saying we're putting a fence on the north side. Great. We need to have it on the plans that we approve. And I think maybe some more like evergreen type, some sort of screening on the west side along the street frontage to break that up a little bit, would be helpful. Now, if you want to do like a half fence and something else, that's up to y'all.
4-foot hedgerow.
Yes.
I can't see over that, so.
I wasn't gonna say it. I was gonna-
What else did you bring up? Joe?
Do you have any estimate on being able to enclose the dumpster?
Oh, like when we could do it? As soon as we can get rid of those 2 mobiles on the back, we can do it.
That doesn't help me out.
Okay.
So that's no. You don't know. So
And we can't get rid of them till we can get permits to get more mobile. I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just kind of telling you. But I know what you mean, because when you go from the back, when you come around behind the Sonic, you see the back of the dumpster. See it, I hate it.
That's why I think some screening might be
So
helpful.
we might, you know what, if we could kind of we could probably go ahead and close it now.
I think if you enclose it, I don't know if I don't think that impedes being able to get your new ones in there if you enclose it where it's at. Does it? I think you can still. It'll be hard to get to that parking spot, yeah, but I mean.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Just enclose it, that be, make that work.
Perfect.
Okay.
Is it in that location right now? Okay.
Yeah, pretty, it's kind of more, maybe a little bit more this way, but it's okay, right? I mean, it is what it is. If we enclose it.
If you had to move it a foot just to get, make sure that somebody can access that parking spot, whatever, you know.
So that would need to be.
The trash truck will need to be able to access it, right? So
Without
it
hitting
needs to
anything.
be- it needs to be some kind of hard surface or surface so the trash truck's not driving through grass to get to a dumpster.
Right now, we have
It needs to be placed where the truck can get to it on a hard surface.
So,
We'll need some sort of items on the plan to say what it's gonna be, how tall, just things like that. So, because right now it's just showing a trash enclosure
okay,
or a trash bin.
okay.
So just some clarification. What's on the east line for screening right now?
Oh, it's where that. It's not a creek, but you know, it runs.
There was a fence, but it has fallen down.
I think it was the city fence, wasn't it? Wasn't ours.
City doesn't really, not in the business of putting up fences.
It was old.
Right there, what do you call it? It's not a creek, a
Drainage.
drainage, whatever it is, yeah.
I think the fence tied in on the north side, it should wrap around that east side too. For screening to just the visual.
You're doing that, you need more
Northeast and
enclosure on
south.
the fence, on the dumpster. It's already not visible from the street.
What's the normal large scale? Enclosure,
Actual dumpster enclosure.
and I don't think we're gonna get an actual dumpster enclosure, I think just something around the trash bins, it kind of just keeps everything contained.
Yeah, that's the main part, yeah.
So
Property line fence already obscures it. You need more.
We do on every other large scale, so yeah. It could be a wooden structure, it doesn't have to be brick mortar, match the facade of anything.
So I think
Fence on that side even.
East,
On the
This
west,
is the east
On the
you're
side.
referring to,
East?
yes.
Is that-
that's what the plan's supposed to show, is where you can put it and how you can make it fit.
you just have to keep it out of the. You don't have to put it on your. On your property, does the creek run on your property?
There's a fence right here
Yeah.
between the two, yeah, we just.
but I don't think it exists all the way down, does it? Isn't that fence deteriorated on the
Did it?
south side?
And that's kind of what the plan's for, just to see where it can go.
So there,
But there should be room to put a fence, especially now that those trailers, the problem were those trailers were off the property line. So now that those are gone and you're moving those in within the setback, there should be space
Now, the only
fence back in.
problem is there's like great tree, we trimmed them, there's a lot of trees back there, so. And they are right there at the edge, so either.
You can put your fence on your property, that's totally fine, you can come in a little bit if you need to.
You have to put down the trees, I mean, I don't know.
I think, again, that's what we're asking to show on the plan. Typically, we have a very detailed plan with the survey with exactly what's out there, where the trees are located, where your property line's at. You know, right away widths. We don't have that here, so I'm just asking that we go back. You're looking like, you don't agree? You don't agree?
Help you find a good
Pardon?
spot. Your engineer should be able to help you find a good spot for your fence.
Okay.
Along your.
Yeah, we just,
I'm telling you, those trees are right there.
that's fine. We need to find a way.
So either the trees gotta come down, or we've been.
We don't know that. We don't know that until.
Yeah, I can't say that. You can't say that because we don't have all the information. So we just need to find where to put a
So
fence.
you need a fence on the
Yes,
east side.
ma'am.
we need proper screening,
of the screening.
and we can't determine that based off of the little picture that we see and the drawing that we have.
Okay.
So we need to understand where the property line's at, where the trees exist, if they're good or bad, honestly.
They're good.
Because they could be a bad tree, and
Okay.
then what screening looks like around that is what we need. Just like the gentleman that had to come back earlier tonight, because last week or 2 weeks ago, we didn't know where the trees, there were some questions around the trees, and so they did some additional work to show us the existing trees and what they were proposing, and it was on a detailed drawing that we could see. So we need to see those. Which an engineer would be able to do that and show
Well,
you.
you had one, we just didn't know we needed this part of it. But we know now.
And y'all were, I've told you and guy before that these were things that would be needed to be shown on development plans, and this kept being what y'all have turned in.
What other items did you have, Jeff?
That was it.
Was it?
We haven't mentioned anything about lighting, not that we can, but or should, I don't know, I'm just thinking about that.
Are there lights? You have it lighted inside?
I mean,
You don't have a pole light or anything, do you?
we have park flags.
Hmm.
We have some like, because we installed, they didn't have mailboxes there, so we put in mailboxes for everybody. And we put just like some solar lights above them, so they can, if they go at night. They can see it to the mailbox.
Okay, but I think that answers most of the major questions that we had. Well, we just need some additional details.
Trash binning for. Screening on that side.
No, landscaping along the west.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the engineering part of it that gives the details is probably the biggest thing that we're gonna need. Because I have an engineer sitting next to me, that will just help us understand all the details again, because if you sell it tomorrow, the next person has to be able to do that based on what was submitted and approved in the planning commission.
Totally understand. So we will get those done, get those to you. But can we get a permit to at least look for and possibly purchase more mobiles for the empty spots? Can we at least get that?
But the permit process is a whole different animal that's not on the agenda this evening, so I don't think we can go through that process other than the ones that you already have approved. Correct?
Well, because without this, you would get a permit.
I think what you just asked me was, can I give you additional permits to move additional homes in there? And I think the answer is no.
As far as, yeah, we really need to nail this down as far as for moving any others except those that have been approved. And I'm still concerned about one and the parking. You said the space between 1 and 2 is for one. One will park there.
There's one space right in front of two. They park.
Whose space is that? Who's going to use that space? Because the front door of the trailer 2 faces that.
Well, actually, there's one right there in front of two.
See, that's not shown again.
And the other one then, you see that first one's gonna be a small mobile. And there would be space on the end of it. It's out right there. Or it could be behind it. But there on number 2. There's one car that parks there, and then they have one down in the southern one.
Again, those are detailed. We need
That I'll fix. I know what you're saying.
those details as well.
Yeah.
Because essentially, we're requiring 2 spaces for each one of the units
Wow.
to be identified.
And I do see what needs to be fixed there.
The adjacent street agreement was on there. What were the?
That should have been on there.
Okay.
It sounds like maybe there is some additional right of way along Fair Street that might need to be dedicated. So we have to look.
Is there a plat for this ever?
The original City of Centerton plat.
What's it show?
It looks like that there's 40 feet on the original.
This plan says 50.
I know. That's why I don't believe that it's,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it's shown
Need to
the
have
right location.
accurate.
So I don't, again, I think just details will. But back to the permit question. We can't go through that process tonight to grant additional permits to do that. It would have to be at a separate meeting. As an agenda item for us to be able to do that. But you already have the existing ones, right?
We have a permit for one spot for the small one.
You've already used the other two, is that, or?
We have two in there.
We meet every 2 weeks,
Oh, you
pretty
meet-
much every 2 weeks. We meet twice a month. How's that? So you don't necessarily have to wait a month. I don't want to say you don't have to wait a month because I don't set the agenda.
If they have room for us to get this done.
October 2nd, if you get it. Third? October 3rd.
Every Tuesday.
Yeah.
Close to the.
Yeah, just depending on how quick you can get this turned around with engineered drawings and for review.
We meet the 3rd and the 17th of October. Would be your next two options to be in front of us. And so with that, I would entertain a motion to table.
It's John, I motion to table development 2305.
Joey, a second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
All right, next on the agenda, is floodplain 2023-08-74 Center Point Drive, the request for a variance for floodplain requirement to elevate the floor of garage conversion instead of being 3 foot above. How are you guys tonight? Good. You'll state your names and what you're looking to do.
I'm Haley Clausing. I own the home. I would like to, I have an aging mother who lives next to me. I'd like to give her a personal space. And this is my contractor.
I'm Mike Zare with Bear Construction.
Okay.
Flooding.
Ellen.
Someone's going to do
Yeah.
it.
Floodplain variances are different from what you guys usually hear for variances. You don't have the same 5 criteria. Floodplain permit is through Title 16. It has some very set guidelines for what you look at when you look at granting floodplain variances. When we grant these, the typical requirement is any kind of improvement, rehab, those homes or an addition would have to meet the floodplain requirement, which is usually 3 feet above the flood elevation. This one, all they're doing is enclosing the existing garage. They're not adding any new roof area. So you really can't raise it 3 feet. You need a very awkward situation in there. If you put a 3-foot jump randomly, and close your garage, then your floor would be 3 feet above. So I kind of broke down in the package you had what's there, the floodplain requirements, and then 8 or 9. Eight. If you look at, like I said, they're different from what you look at where you're not so much the hardship and things like that that you usually see as part of the BZA.
In your opinion, does it meet the requirements?
Yes, I mean, they're not impacting the floodplain at all because they're enclosing their enclosed building.
So it's a no rush, no rush.
Correct, yeah, the garage is already enclosed, it's not increasing it. But right now, they have a elevation certificate, they had was 19, so you bought your house?
I had one done in 19 and then they redid it a few days ago.
So I mean,
So did the map change? Obviously, the finished floor is not 3 feet above the base flood. Then there's a map revision and now it's.
on the elevation certificate said that the finished floor of the home is just above the floodplain elevation. the garage is about a half foot low. So part of what we are, as for this variance, is they'll have to build the floor of the garage up, whether they do it with treated 2x, concrete. We want to do it the 6.5 inches. So that now the finished floor of the home is above, or finished floor of the addition is above.
Equal to the house, right?
Equal to the house, how it's said on the elevation certificate.
And there
Actually,
was-
the certificate, the garage isn't 6 inches. It's only about a 1/4 inch, less than the main house, floor.
And it was built in compliance. It was just with the map change, put into.
So
And it is less than substantial improvements.
did you say you just changed the certificate?
50% improvement or?
What you said?
The certificate was redone, because the previous one had the garage setting lower. Well, obviously, there was no step up when you go from the garage into the home. So we said, let's redo this, make sure it's right. They came out, redid the elevation. And in fact, the garage is about an inch at the garage door, and it slopes about an inch. So for all intents and purposes, the garage is the same slab as the home. Raise it up a little bit because we're gonna put a vapor barrier down and raise it up a little. So we'll have about an inch above base flood elevation.
Obviously, you haven't seen that yet. Is that what you're saying? So if we just say that the finished floor of the addition, if you will, the remodel matches that of the house, it should suffice.
Make sure that it's above the base flood elevation. Rather than, that's where you can grant the variance to say, it's just make sure it's above the flood elevation rather than needing to raise the entire thing to 3 feet above.
Sure.
I mean, I went through and looked at like the impact on neighboring properties. There's none. Impact to, is there public expense? No, we're not gonna do any kind of improvements on public infrastructure as any of this. So actually not increasing the flood height. So the 8 things you look at as part of the flood variance, it meets all those. But because of how it's very explicitly written in our code, it has to come to you guys for the variance. We can't administratively approve.
I don't think we've ever seen one of these, have we? Congrats, y'all are the first.
Seen one.
Was it the,
You've actually seen two, Ravenston and
Yeah.
the fire station. The fire
Okay.
station. They were required to go 3 feet above the 500-year with their addition. But because of emergency services and it ended up being a safety hazard for them. So they also elevated as much as they could within a certain slope. And they did a ramp.
sounds like you don't have any problems with keeping the remodel part above the base flood. There's a new certificate, right? Did that BFE change at all? So that stayed the same, it just adjusted what it said, how deep the garage was?
This improvement will not change the BFE.
Sorry,
This improvement will not change the BFE.
not change BFE. No, BFE stayed the same.
One of the stipulations, not part of this, that we had with the flood permit is that
Okay.
I mean-
The BFE,
the assumption is not to, they won't be able to build another garage in front of it in the future, which then would be in the floodplain and have an impact. So as long as they don't build the structure in there, nothing's gonna change. In terms of the BFE, so.
We need to read each one of these or just that we agree to the H that we're.
I don't know that you necessarily, if there's any that anyone has any questions on.
well, do we approve this or do we recommend it?
This goes strictly to the planning commission and that's it.
We
The way our
may
code's written
amend
is,
the code later to go to the BZA, which is typically the one that would approve any variances.
Well, this one, the CRS program.
No, in fact, we need to.
excuse me,
Because they will look at this. And the EC. and they'll be-
I'm okay, if you're okay, with it, I'm okay. with it.
Yeah. No, I think it's fine.
say, we're okay with it, but we can't administratively approve it. And like I said, I broke down the 8 things we looked at. And I mean, it meets every single one of these, the way I look at it.
So if there's no additional questions or comments or any concerns about the 8 noted things, then there is a recommended a motion with our deliberation of facts. And so with that, I would entertain a motion for the floodplain variance for 202308 of 174 Center Point Drive.
Oh, we had to read the whole thing.
Yeah, there you go. You ready? Go for it.
All right. It's gonna be a minute. Based upon the conclusions for each of our findings, I move to grant the request by the property owner Haley Causing for the following variance. The floodplain ordinance for the home renovation project at 174 Center Point Drive, and that the rehabilitation and other improvement of existing residential structure less than substantial improvement can be constructed so the finished floor of the home be above the base flood elevation at a minimum elevation of 1275.67 instead of 3 feet above BFE, as long as other stipulations regarding footprint impacts and submittal. Period would be nice. No changes will be made to the building footprint, i.e. no additions can be made to change the building footprint, such as building a new garage, either attached or detached from the property. The garage door will be framed in using water resistant materials and sealed to be watertight. Building department has already informed the applicant that vapor barrier will be required above the concrete to protect the new structural elements of the floor. Third, see, any new mechanical, plumbing, or electrical units be placed 3 feet above BFE.
Second.
Oh, wait, I was gonna say, could you repeat that?
We have a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Thank you, guys. Good luck. Very good. Thank you. All right, under other business, there are some reports in Dropbox, department reports, planning, building safety, public works and utilities. There's a bike BMX park map. A presentation on the Centerton Rec Center to the council. For announcements, or there's a council meeting on 10/10. I will see you before then on 10/3. If you can't be here on 10/3, make sure you let us know. There is a public input meeting for Greenhouse Road improvements on 10/2 at the Bentonville Community Center from 4 to 7. And anything else?
You guys can be there through.
What?
Because you work for the city, you can be there. There's a one beforehand for city staff from 3 to 4. Public's welcome at 4.
Big crowds.
Snacks.
Still like that Dairy Queen. Years.
All right, anything else from staff? If not. If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, is anyone opposed?